Hello, my name is Anniken and I live in the southwest of England where I design knitting patterns and teach knitting workshops. This week I'm going to share with you one of the lessons from my Successful Lace Knitting online course. So Successful Lace Knitting is a bumper online course. It has 26 lessons and 65 videos. I will tell you more about exactly what's covered in that course at the end of this lesson, and I'll put all the links below. But I wanted to share this lesson with you, and this lesson is called Read Your Lace Knitting, and I show you how to learn to read your knitting. Reading your knitting is something that comes with experience, and the advantage of being able to read your knitting is that it will help you to work out where you are in your knitting. So if you lose your place in the middle of the row, it makes it easier to work out where you are. It makes it easier to find mistakes and fix mistakes. And it also makes it easier to be slightly less reliant on your stitch pattern. So you might be able to actually recognize and anticipate what stitches come next, rather than having to read your pattern stitch by stitch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, this is a lesson from my Successful Lace Knitting course, which is an online course, and I will tell you more about the course at the end of this video, and I will put all the links and all the details below. In this video, we're going to look at how to read your knitting. Reading your knitting will make it much easier to work out if you've made a mistake and where you've made that mistake, and it will also help you to fix your mistakes much easier. The easiest way to learn to read your knitting is to try and make a mental note of what you're doing and to try and recognize patterns in your lace knitting. Now, when it comes to reading your knitting to help you memorize your lace pattern, the best way to do that is to be able to read from a chart. So if you are not comfortable knitting from charts, that really needs to be the first thing you need to practice. I know there are some people who really don't get on with charts. They've tried lots and they genuinely don't get on with them. And that's fine. But most people just need to persist a little bit more and try more charts. And to start with, you can alternate between a chart and the written instructions. Sometimes charts and written instructions may vary slightly because, they have the same stitches across the row, but sometimes the pattern repeats may be put in different places. Sometimes that's done to shorten the written instructions and make them easier to understand. Okay, so let's look at what I'm doing here, and I will try and talk you through my process of how I read my lace. So quite often when I say, oh, this lace pattern was really easy to memorize, I don't always actually memorize the stitch patterns. I don't have it in my head that it's knit two together, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, SSK, knit three, for example. But it means that I have memorized the shape of the lace knitting, and I know roughly how the decreases correspond to the yarn overs and that kind of thing. So let me show you what I'm knitting at the moment. I've knitted this chart once, and then I'm going to knit it again. So let's have a look at this chart. Now this chart that I've got here is actually slightly wrong. There is actually an extra knit stitch. So the chart says that I should knit 4. I actually need to knit 5. But by the time you get this chart, I will have corrected it. So the chart that you can see here says knit 4. I've done knit 5 because that's what's correct. And then I'm going to do a knit 2 together. Now I can see from the chart that yarn over in column 6 is directly above the yarn over in column 6 on row 11. Now sometimes when you look at a chart and you compare it to previous rows, it may not work out exactly like this on your needles, depending on where the decreases are in relation to the yarn over. So if all the decreases are over on one side and all the yarn overs over on the other side, then that can mean that when you look at the chart, it looks like maybe these yarn overs are on top of each other, whereas they're actually not. But on this particular chart, I know that that yarn over on row 1 is directly above the yarn over on row 11. So I am going to do knit 2 together, then yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and then an SSK. And then I'm going to knit 5, because I'm doing this repeat twice. Knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, SSK. So I'm looking at the chart at the moment, and then knit 5 at the end. So the chart that I've got here has got knit, is missing a knit stitch either end. So I will fix that before you guys get it. And then row 2, all the wrong side rows, just knit 2 and then pull to the last 2 stitches and then knit 2. Okay, so row 3, let's have a look at the chart first. So I can see on row 3 that the decrease knit 2 together in column 4 is 1 stitch earlier than the knit 2 together in on row 1. So I can see that there's a knit stitch between the decrease and the yarn over. So the yarn overs are stacked on top of each other, but the decreases move 1 stitch out to the side. So I'm going to try and knit the next 4 rows without looking at the chart. So I'm actually going to switch my tablet off, move that out of the way, and then we'll see how I do. So last time I knitted 5. So I'm going to knit 4 this time. So I know that the decrease moves out 1 stitch. So if I look at my knitting, I can see that I did a decrease there, which is that stitch. So the knit 2 together on row 1 resulted in that stitch. So if I'm moving that 1 stitch out, that means that I'm going to knit that stitch together with that one. So that will make the decrease go in a diagonal line. And then I know there is the yarn overs stack on top of each other. So that means I have to knit 1 because the yarn overs are done either side of that center stitch. Because that was a yarn over on row 1, I'm going to knit it through the back loop. And then I'm going to do yarn over, knit 1. So I can see that the yarn overs are across either side of that central stitch from the double decrease at the end of the chart, on the last row of the chart, which I think was row 11. I haven't got the chart to look at now. So I know the yarn over is either side of that. And on the other side of that middle stitch, I'm mirroring what I did before. So now I'm going to do a yarn over, knit 1. Again, I'm knitting that through the back loop because it was a yarn over on the previous right side row. And then that's the stitch that was left from the decrease from the SSK on row 1. So I'm going to do an SSK with that stitch that was left from the SSK on the previous right side row and the next stitch. And I can't remember how many I need to knit to finish the pattern repeat and to start the next pattern repeat. But of course I know that my knit 2 together will be the stitch that was left from the knit 2 together on row 1. That's the knit 2 together on row 1. So that was the stitch that was left from that. And stitch in front, so that will be my new knit 2 together on this row. And then I want to do the yarn over either side of that center stitch, so I need to knit 1 through the back loop, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and then I just mirror that. So knit 1 through the back loop, SSK, that's the stitch from the SSK on row 1, so it'll be that stitch and the next stitch that I knit together, and then I knit to the end. So I'm going to do row 4. Okay, so I think it's now row 5. So you can slip the first one and knit the first one. I always like to slip the first one, so I just do that out of habit. And I can't remember how many I need to knit, but I know that I'm still going out to the side. So that was the knit 2 together on the previous right side row, which resulted in that stitch. So it's that stitch and the one in front that I need to knit together. So that means I need to knit 1 more, then I can do a knit 2 together. So you can see now the knit 2 together go in a diagonal line out to the side, which is the same as what I do on the bottom on the first repeat. Then I'm going to knit till I get to that central stitch. So knit 1, that is through the back loop because it was a yarn over on the previous right side row. That's the stitch that's above the last time I did a double decrease. So I'm going to do a yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and then knit that one through the back loop. That's the stitch that's left from the last SSK, so I need to knit another one, then SSK, and then I'm going to knit just 1 because that's the decrease from the knit 2 together from row 1, so that's that stitch. So I'm going to knit those 2 together, knit one through the back loop, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, knit one through the back loop, knit one, and then SSK, and then knit 3, and then I'm going to do row 6. Okay, so I've done row 6 now, and I can just check that, you know, yes, I did row 6 correctly, because I got 2 stitches between the yarn over and the decrease. I can see that I've got these yarn over lines going out to the side. You may not be able to see that on this because the yarn is a little bit dark, but look at your own knitting and you'll be able to see that. And I got 3 yarn overs on top of each other. Looks like I got 4, which I do have 4, but that includes that one. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 yarn overs on top of each other. Okay, so we're going to now do row 7. So row 7, I will look at the chart just to make sure I am doing it correctly, and I've got to remember that there's an extra knit stitch at that end. So I'm going to do knit 4 or slip on knit 3, and then I'm going to do yarn over. So it's a double decrease, which is S2 KPO. CDD is another abbreviation used for a central double decrease. And you end up with this kind of straight line. Can you see that? There's like a straight stitch which is slightly raised, and then at the top here you can see there's like 2 stitches that go together like that. So the top one is an SK2PO, so slip 1, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, and the other ones are slip 2, knit 1, pass slip stitches over. So that's how different they look. On the chart, they're actually all supposed to be the same as the ones at the bottom, but I think I made a mistake on the on row 11. That's okay. Okay, so we did yarn over, and then we're going to knit 2 and then do a central double decrease. So I'm going to slip 2 together, knit 1. So when you're slipping 2 for the central double decrease, you slip them together knitwise, then you knit 1, and then you lift those 2 slip stitches over together, and that puts the central stitch on top and knocks the other stitches behind it. And then we're going to knit 2, yarn over, 2, 3. Okay, so I've knit 3, yarn over, knit 2, slip 2 stitches together knitwise, knit 1, pass the slip stitches over, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will do row 8. We're on row 9. So if I look on the chart, I can see that on row 9, when I get to the first yarn over, I'm knitting 1 stitch more than I did on the yarn over on row 7. And then I'm doing the double decrease. So my yarn overs are basically moving in towards the center stitch. Then I'm doing a double decrease over the center stitch. So the double decreases stack up on top of each other. So let's switch that off and move it away so I can do that without looking. So I need to knit 5 because that's the yarn over from the previous right side row. So I'm going to knit that through the back loop, and I know that my yarn over on this row will be the stitch after the yarn over from the previous right side row. So yarn over, and then I know my double decrease is going to be stacked over the previous double decrease, which is that stitch. So I know that's the center stitch of the double decrease. So it's going to take in the stitch before and the stitch after. So I've only got to do knit 1 here. Slip those 2, knit 1, pass slip stitches over. I can see that stacks up perfectly on top of the other ones. And then I'm going to do on this side, I'm basically going to do the mirror of what I did on the right hand side of that double decrease, but I'm going to do the yarn over, the stitch in front of the yarn over on the previous right side row. So I knit 1, yarn over, knit that one through the back loop because it was a yarn over on the previous right side row, and then I'm going to knit till I get to the next yarn over from the previous right side row, and I can knit that one through the back loop, yarn over, knit 1. That's the second stitch on my needle is above the previous central double decrease. So I stop 1 stitch before that middle stitch, slip 2 stitches together, knit 1, pass the slip stitches over, knit 1, yarn over, and then knit to the end. And then I'm going to do the next wrong side row quickly, then I'll show you the final right side row. Okay, so we're on the final right side row now. So I'm going to knit till I get to the yarn over from the previous right side row. So that was the yarn over from the previous right side row. So we'll knit that one through the back loop, then yarn over, and then that's the central double decrease from the previous right side row. So I need to stop 1 stitch before that, so that's there. So I just doing yarn over, slip 2, knit 1, pass slip stitch over, and then I do a yarn over. So you can see now the yarn overs go in a nice line in towards that central double decrease. That was the yarn over on the previous right side row, so I'll knit that one through the back loop, and then I knit till I get to the yarn over from the previous right side row, knit that one through the back loop, yarn over. Then I'm going to do a central double decrease over the stitch that was left from the central double decrease on the previous right side row. So slip 2 stitches together, knit 1, pass slip stitches over, yarn over, knit that one through the back loop, and then knit to the end. And then let's have a look. So I'm not going to do the last wrong side row, but you can see now that if I compare that to the chart, it matches perfectly. If I compare that to the chart now, it matches perfectly. That's what the chart looks like. So I've got the yarn overs going up in the center for 6 rows, and then they're going in towards the middle, which is what I have here. I have the yarn overs going up in the center here and then in towards the middle here. So that was just a very, very quick demonstration of how I read my knitting. This is a very simple lace pattern. It is more difficult when you've got a more complex lace pattern, and sometimes I can't do the whole chart or even the whole row without looking at my chart at all, but I can at least try and recognize some of the shapes and some of the patterns that I'm making in my knitting, so I don't have to look at my chart for every single stitch. Sometimes I also try and memorize groups of stitches. The chart may read knit 2 together, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 1, yarn over. So I might look at that and think, okay, knit 2 together, knit 1, yarn over twice, and then look at my chart and look at the next group of stitches. So I'm not looking at the chart for every single stitch as I'm knitting it, because that will just get very frustrating and very, very slow. But this is not something that you're going to do straight away. You have to practice. You have to look at what's happening on your needles, look at what things look like as you're doing them and a few rows later, and then learn to recognize your knitting that way. Compare it to the chart. Do stick to trying to get used to the chart if you can. If you've tried it and you know you just can't get your head around it, don't feel bad. There are some people who just can't get the hang of charts at all, but most people I have taught in my in-person workshops will get their head around charts. They just have to practice and stick with it and not tell themselves that they can't do it. So give it a go. Let me know what you think, and do ask any questions you have below. I hope you enjoyed that video. So that was one of the lessons from my Successful Lace Knitting course. As I said previously, the course has 26 lessons and 65 videos. So it is a really, really bumper course that takes you right through from complete beginner, complete lace knitting beginner to intermediate. I share more or less everything I know about lace knitting in this course, and it's taken me over 6 months to create it, and I'm very, very pleased with it. Lots of people are already taking the course, and I hope you will join them. I will tell you a little bit more about how the course works and what's included. So this course is a self-guided course, which means that you get immediate access to the course and you can work in your own time and at your own pace. And you keep indefinite access to the course, so you can do the lessons in any order, go back and watch them whenever you want. So some of the things that you will learn in this course are how to work basic lace stitches, including yarn overs and various decreases, how to read lace charts, 4 different cast-ons and cast-offs or bind-offs suitable for lace knitting, and how they compare to each other. Double and triple yarn overs, how to improve the look of your lace knitting, how to add beads, how to shape, which means increasing or decreasing, while keeping the pattern correct, how to fix mistakes. I show you how to fix easy mistakes and more complex ones. I show you 4 different provisional cast-ons, how to knit lace on both right and wrong side rows, how to work knitted on edgings or applied edgings, grafting, Kitchener stitch and Russian grafting, circular cast-ons. I'll show you 2 methods, so if you want to start a shawl from the centre out and work in the round. And I also show you how to work 11 different shawl shapes. And in addition to that, I also show you how to block several shawl shapes and garments. And of course this lesson, which is how to read your knitting. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you're interested in the Successful Lace Knitting course, I'll put all the links below. Do also subscribe to my newsletter if you haven't already. The link to that is below as well as all the links to where you can find me on social media. If you have any questions about the course or about anything else, do let me know, and thank you very much for watching.